at the Dean, baby. It's Theo Dorsey with ESPN West Palm Play. We're here at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium because March means two things here in Palm Beach County. Spring training baseball, but also the FAU men's basketball team is back dancing again. That's right, they got the 8th seed in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be playing in the East region of Friday, about noon tip-off against 9 seed Northwestern. So, of course, ahead of the big game, we got to catch up with head coach Dusty May to see how the Owls are feeling going into their second straight NCAA tournament, and also the angst he felt ahead of finding out what their seeding would be and if they'd even make the big dance this year. Check it out.
Florida Atlantic, for the first time in program history, going to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. They do it as an at-large 8th seed in the East region. It'll be FAU and Northwestern. Barclays Center in Brooklyn, Friday at 12:15. And joining us now is the head coach of Florida Atlantic, Dusty May, here on LaVicka, Theo, and Stone. Coach, I know things are super hectic and busy, so thank you for taking some time. Before we dig in here, I want you to know that Stone Labanowitz, co-host / producer, he thought your tweet with that song, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, last night was a very old man tweet because it was simply just the link, and you didn't go like YouTube or find some way to direct people to it. He thought that was an old man tweet yesterday.
You got to do better, Coach.
No, you got to make them work for it.
No,
You can't give the people what they want. They got to earn it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Our guys had a different playlist, so I had to do it for all the 40-plussers.
That's right.
Mid-40s.
Yeah, all the old heads. Absolutely. See, that's how he motivates people, Stone. You haven't brought a team to the NCAA tournament twice in a row. So, Coach, again, congratulations. I will be honest with you. It was a slight, very slight. I thought that, hey, after the loss to Temple, we're still in. It's all right. We were a lot coming in, but there was a small, little, tiny, evil part of my brain that was telling me, uh-oh, this might not happen. Did you have any of that even fleeting thought going into yesterday's selection show?
Ken, I don't follow any of that stuff regularly other than just, I have teenage sons who are in on other teams, so they follow it and they update me and my wife and whatnot. And so I had heard from one of them that after the North Texas game that we were a lock. So there was no pressure as far as making the tournament. We just wanted to focus on winning a championship. And after the game, I think I went to bed at 1, and ESPN had updated their. We still had a bye. Can you hear me, Ken?
Yeah, now I got you. Sorry about that, Coach.
Well, I went to bed at about 1:15 or so, and we still had a bye. And so the bye meant we weren't going to Dayton. And I wake up the first thing in the morning, and I start seeing things about how we I guess we're sliding, and we're one of the last 4 in, and we're going to be in Dayton. And at that point, I'm thinking, what could have happened without any games being played? Obviously there wasn't a software update in the middle of the night that recalculated all the metrics. So I was curious what happened. And so then the conspiracy theorist in me started thinking maybe there was a leak out of the room and we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And so, I thought when we landed that we would be in Dayton, and I was terrified that we wouldn't be in. Then I started seeing some breakdowns of the metrics. I saw our record versus quad 1 and quad 2 and some other things, and I felt much better. And at that point, I just said, you know what, this is out of my control anyway. I'm going to focus on just not being consumed with this, and so, but yeah, there was a little bit of concern, but Wally Zerbiak broke the news 3 minutes before the show started on CBS, so I felt better.
Yeah, he gave a little heads up there, and you didn't have to wait long if you watch the selection show. It was about 45 seconds in, FAU an 8 seed. So let me ask you this, Coach. You obviously want championships. You wanted to hoist that trophy in Fort Worth. Didn't happen. But what does that mean for this program that Florida Atlantic is able to get into the NCAA tournament and do it as an at-large, but also do it as an 8 seed? I mean, I feel like that's such a massive stride. Back-to-back NCAA tournaments, but being the profile of that and being able to get in that manner.
Ken, unless you've done this a long time, you don't understand the magnitude of making the NCAA tournament, especially if you're not at a Power 5. And immediately after hearing our name called, I thought about all the players that I coached as an assistant and all the teams I was a part of that should have been NCAA teams, but because we didn't win the tournament, I don't want to say should have, like we were more qualified than anyone else, but we had teams good enough to compete in the NCAA tournament, and none of those guys had the opportunity to ever go. Our UAB teams, when I was assistant, our La Tech teams that won 27, 28, and 29 games, we were always left out. So I immediately started thinking about how appreciative we should be and how these guys should enjoy this moment as a team, because this team's different than last year's team. But most importantly, it gave me about 15 minutes of pure reflection on the guys that probably were right there on the cusp of going to the tournament and never had a chance to experience that magic.
Here with FAU head coach Dusty May, Florida Atlantic and Northwestern Friday, Barclays Center, Brooklyn 8-9 game in the East region. That'll be a 12:15 tip time. You've talked a lot this year about how things are different. The team is different. The people are different. What's been the biggest challenge with running it back in your mind with this group?
Just not changing things more to keep us from getting complacent. And I look back now, and we competed at such a high level in May and June, and we were almost in season form during the summer. And I definitely would have mixed up our training more. I would have done things a lot differently, and heck, the results might have been worse. They might have been the same, or they might have been better. Who knows? But I do feel like we could have trained and prepared a little bit different. But we were going on the personality of our team, what we thought would be our problems and issues, and get out in front of those. But some of them came to fruition, and then we had others kind of come to the surface that we hadn't prepared for in advance, to mentally prepare for in advance.
If you could, bring some of the listeners through the process now. You find out via Wally Serbiak 3 minutes before the selection show that it's going to be Northwestern. It's going to be in Brooklyn. What do you do as the head coach, and how do you direct people now to get prepared for an opponent that you're not overly familiar with in just 4 days' time?
Well, I'll begin with that 3 minutes before the show started. When Wally said it, I made the statement that we're either going to the tournament or we're carpooling up and we're going to find Wally Zerbiak. And so once that happened, we immediately scatter and start reaching out to contacts that played Northwestern and maybe a holiday tournament and Thanksgiving or whatever the case, and just trying to gather information, little bits and pieces, so we can have an idea of what we're looking for, because we're not going to be able to consume as many games like we normally would before with our team. So we came up with a condensed scouting report, and we presented that today, and tomorrow will be much more in-depth with detail. But it's a scramble, and then obviously, fortunately for us, we have a lot of media. The local news was here. Several outlets were covering us. So we had I had media responsibilities last night, and then you start, you obviously take the calls from those people that are important, that have been a part of this, and then you start forwarding all logistical questions to my wife, Anna. And this is probably more work for her than me this time of year with all the extra stuff. But it's just, what do we need to clean up? We have a week to prepare, so that there's an opportunity to get better in practice. And so we just try to design the week of when to go hard, when to taper a little bit, when we're going to travel, and just try to get as organized as possible to play our best on Friday at noon, 12:15.
It is amazing how doing this once and you feel so much more prepared the second time around, just from a logistical standpoint. And there are a lot of teams that would go to New York City and be overwhelmed by the experience. That's home away from home for us now.
Yeah, we're very comfortable, especially when we had the week in between Columbus and New York to kind of get our bearings and really hunker down. I guess probably the most pure, unadulterated joy we had was our name was called on last night in the locker room, and several coaches who I visited with that have been in this situation before said, subconsciously, your guys have been pointing towards this all year. Mm-hmm. They've been thinking about postseason, and so now they're going to perform very well. You guys are going to play really hard, and so it gave me a lot of confidence. And then today we had our most spirited practice in a long time. And, it's definitely something that we feel like has reinvigorated this group. There's nothing stale about it. And so they're excited to go, obviously with CBS 12:15 with Raftery and the guys calling the game. It's a big deal for our team, our community, our university, our athletic department, everyone. So we can't wait to put Florida Atlantic back on the national stage.
Coach, really appreciate you jumping on in what's an extremely busy time. And I've told you this before, but you've been in part responsible for some of the greatest moments of my professional career. And so I really appreciate that. And I can't wait to get to Brooklyn and play things out on Friday.
Ken, as you know, this has been a complete team effort. We've had so many people that have brought a big piece to this puzzle, contributed a big piece, and you're one of those, man. You've been a pro. You've brought great energy and obviously just the morale that you bring to our groups. We appreciate you, and we hopefully we can extend this thing until April.
It's Theo Dorsey. If you love that video, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment to get more just like that one. Also, don't get stuck paying for someone else's negligence. Lytal, Reiter, Smith, Ivey, and Fronrath has been representing injured people and their families for more than 3 decades. They can represent you. Check them out at foryourrights.com and don't get stuck paying for someone else's negligence.